you stories which others won't. And tonight we will tell you about this new strategic map that is being drawn.
They say your enemy's enemy is your friend. Is that the foundation of the new defense bridge between India and America?
This is what separates us from others who claim to be telling you global stories that matter. In the last 3 days, WION has been traveling across Syria. You are in Latakia city right now. Tell us, what is the situation on ground at Gravitas? We don't just tell you stories from selected countries from around the world.
2 years since the Myanmar military coup, the people of Myanmar continue to live in a nightmare.
Because it does not suit their propaganda, or because they are too scared to speak truth to power.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center.
Actually, in that situation, that we are banning from going to school, university, or any type of courses, this is a good opportunity for girls, for women in Afghanistan to continue their education, their studies in online courses. So this is why I want to continue my studies in online courses, and this is my dream, this is my goal, to finish my studying whatever what happened in Afghanistan.
یکی از نگرانی‌هایی که من در قسمت فعالیت ما دارم، اگر روز اینترنت یا برق کلاً در افغانستان قطع شود، این کار بر ما خیلی دشوار خواهد ساخت و این یکی از نگرانی‌هایی است که ما همیشه داشتیم.
Hello sir, thank you. I'm doing very well.
You have to risk, and absolutely we risked everything. Yes, it is risky for us.
You must be hopeful, because after all nights, after every sunset, there is sunshine, there is a day. So this is why we must be hopeful, and we don't lose our belief, our hopes, and we must be strong in that situation.
These were girls and women in Afghanistan who have now turned to online classes due to the Taliban's restrictions on their attending school and college. In the past, we've shown you how the Taliban barred girls from schools, blocked access for them to universities, and stopped most women from working. But now, as they turn to online classes, there is at least a glimmer of hope. Of course, there are persisting challenges like power outages, poor internet connections, and more. But WION will continue to bring you the voice of Afghan women and girls. Hello everyone, you're watching Inside South Asia with me, Shivan, Chanana. Let's get to the point. Pakistan's unending political turmoil, compounded with an economic collapse and global criticism, have given rise to a country that is split down the middle in more ways than one. From squabbling within the judiciary to critical institutions being openly insulted, there are enough signs of a rot setting in. What it signifies, perhaps, is a dangerous truth staring back at Pakistan, that when institutions lose their balance, the cart threatens to tip over. Take a look at this report.
No evidence that any embezzlement of funds by Hussein.
It's reached a stage where the basic pillars of a nation, divided in themselves, are openly abused and insulted. Pakistan's foundation stands split down the middle. Only mudslinging holds sway. Case 1. Justices of the Supreme Court of Pakistan squabble among themselves, open fire at the Chief Justice. Cited almost openly is partisanship in the decision to postpone provincial elections. The Chief Justice's wings stand clipped. What is cited as a one-man show is undone, with 3 judges now in charge. They spelt out the split, saying the country's top court could not be dependent on the solitary decision of one man. Case 2. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif versus President Arif Alvi. Alvi's letter to Sharif over law and order related to elections in Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa raised some unparliamentary potshots. Blatantly partisan in nature, one-sided and anti-government views, and the letter being termed as a press release of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, just one end of some harsh language.
So-called Prime Minister the Prime Minister has allocated huge amounts of funds for other causes. And the fact of the matter is that this is a constitutional requirement. So the first priority has to be to give funds for elections to be held.
Case 3. Political leaders take ugly digs at the military and judiciary as part of their political agenda. So a Maryam Nawaz Sharif lashes out on the bail given to Imran Khan, terming the judiciary as establishment, just as the Pakistan military is already seen as one. Note that Maryam Sharif has long accused the military of bringing Khan to power.
Their politics is based entirely around support. Earlier it was support of the military establishment. Now they have found support in the judicial establishment.
The list of visible and emerging fissures goes on and on. Executive versus legislature versus judiciary versus military. And perhaps most glaring of all this happens in the backdrop of an economy sinking, a people crying out for help. Mile-high prices of basic commodities, inflation soaring at 28 to 30%, and a depreciated currency have made Ramadan this year the most challenging yet for the people. What cost 200 rupees last year now costs 500 rupees. Petrol, bus fares, rent and more have gone through the roof. And somewhere the people seem to have given up on administration and governance, because that lot is busy with a host of other agendas.
China's dead diplomacy offensive that stirred up storms in countries across the world has taken a rather softer overtone in Sri Lanka. Though packaged as gestures of charity and goodwill during the holy month of Ramadan, there's an inherent strategic realpolitik and diplomacy that's actually at work here. Take a look.
China courts influence in Sri Lanka via Buddhist clergy. In the Buddhist social-religious sense, the concept is defined as dana, or charity and donation. Thousands of packets of dry rations distributed to underprivileged families via temples and mosques. It's packaged as a gesture of goodwill during Ramadan and Sinhala and Tamil New Year festive seasons. But look closer, and the Fashion donation drive, as it's called after the Chinese Buddhist monk, takes on dimensions of geostrategy and realpolitik. No less than China's ambassador to Sri Lanka, Ki Zhenong, and Sri Lanka's foreign minister, Mamali Sabri, were present for the charity event at Colombo's Jummah Mosque. And the focus was larger China-Sri Lanka relations.
China are long-standing friends. We have historic relationship for a long period of time. We have stood for each other in both regionally and internationally. And we are very grateful. Like always, China has stood with Sri Lanka in difficult times. For 70 years, we have had excellent relationship, starting with the rubberized pact. So it is the solidarity which is being shown here. Now the latest project, 7 temples in China had got together and brought a lot of relief to the people of Sri Lanka.
Extend the idea to soft diplomacy as a relatively recent instrument of Chinese foreign policy. It uses societal and economic distress as a favorable environment to deepen a political footprint, extending into multiple spheres over the past few months. The first batch of school uniforms came in January this year. Some 9 million meters of fabric for nearly 3.5 million students came to several provinces over multiple batches. In mid-March, the Chinese embassy donated material for production of polyester uniforms. And now a more direct Buddhist to Buddhist diplomacy. This is not just food donation, but politics in a charitable guise.
While China's long-standing ties with Sri Lanka appear to be a little frayed, especially over the last year, it appears so that China is now once again extending a helping hand to Sri Lanka in terms of donation and aid. However, Sri Lanka still awaits a solid plan in terms of how and when debt restructuring with China will take place.
Post the Rajapaksa ouster, Beijing's Sri Lanka debt diplomacy plans have been in disarray, with a less compliant government in office in Colombo. This softer people outreach under the name of the ancient traveller fashion are an effort to alter the vacuum. Another organization, the Sri Lanka-China Buddhist Friendship Association, works along a similar line. Call it diplomacy by religious means. China, however, rejects this idea.
China acts in accordance with market laws and international rules, respects the will of relevant countries, has never forced any party to borrow money, has never forced any country to pay, will not attach any political conditions to loan agreements, and does not seek any political self-interest.
The fact is, the Chinese debt diplomacy idea also ties in with the bigger picture. China's investments in over 150 countries, most of them underdeveloped, have looked to paint it as the Good Samaritan. And inroads made have ranged from outright damaging to effects that certainly cannot be played down.
Let's shift our focus now to the skies of Nepal. If you're planning to travel there, then this is definitely for you. A Nepal airline plane almost hit an Air India flight. A major tragedy was averted as the warning systems alerted the pilots, but the big question remains. Why did this happen? What makes the skies of Nepal so dangerous? Watch this.
The 24th of March. An Air India plane from New Delhi took off to Kathmandu. Minutes before it was to reach its destination, something unexpected happened. It's been called an almost mid-air collision with a Nepal Airlines aircraft that was flying in from Kuala Lumpur to Kathmandu. Here's what happened. Following Kathmandu ATC clearance, the Air India aircraft, which was flying at 19,000 feet, descended to 15,000 feet. A height at which a Nepal Airlines aircraft was also flying. But soon, the warning systems alerted pilots. The Air India flight climbed sharply and the Nepal Airlines aircraft descended to 7,000 feet to avoid a dangerous collision. The report says the Air India crew saw the flight coming from the other direction and immediately informed Kathmandu Air Traffic Control. The ATC asked the Air India crew to ascend sharply to avoid a collision, which they did, and a tragedy was averted. The Civil Aviation Authority of Nepal, or CAAN, has suspended the 3 air traffic controllers for carelessness. A 3-member probe committee has been formed to investigate the matter. The 2 officers who had been in charge of the control room at the time of the incident have been suspended. But is this action enough? The incident comes some 2 months after a plane crash in Pokhara, which killed all 72 people on board. Nepal is known for its poor air safety. latest incident has put focus back on the country's mismanaged aviation sector. Remember this tweet by the co-founder of Snapdeal, Kunal Bahal. Days after Nepal's January plane accident, Bahal shared his terrifying experience when he was once traveling to Pokhara a few years ago. He took to the microblogging site and wrote, "This is really sad. A few years ago on my flight to Pokhara, when I told the stewardess that airflow was coming from the corner of a window while airborne, she brought a tissue paper and stuffed the crevice. I decided never to fly to Pokhara again, expecting the worst one day." This is the reality of Nepal's aviation safety standards. Apart from insufficient training on the ground and lack of maintenance, it also has a challenging topography. Some of the world's most tricky and remote landing pads are located in the Himalayan country. One such airport is this one, Tenzing Hillary Airport in eastern Nepal. The airport caters to the small town of Lukla at the foot of Mount Everest. It is ranked among the top 10 dangerous airports in the world and is titled Runway on the Roof of the World. The airport is the only passage between Kathmandu and Lukla town, with 30 flights taking off and landing here every day. The Lukla airport is considered the starting point for treks towards Mount Everest base camp. At a time when Nepal is looking to revive its tourism sector post-COVID-19 restrictions, the big question remains, why is the country not able to make its skies safer? It's high time the government of Nepal takes strict action to clean up its aviation safety mess.
Up next, we bring you a story of a cricket match that has defined Sri Lanka for years. It's called the Battle of the Blues, and the annual game was held in March. Now, for the past year, the island nation has been suffering from a deep economic crisis. But even during these tough times, the spirit of the game couldn't be dampened. Our correspondent, Dasuni Athoda, gets us this special report and tells us why this battle matters so much for Sri Lankans.
A 25,000 plus audience. A visit by the President of Sri Lanka, no less. This, after all, is the second oldest uninterrupted cricket series in the sport. They call it the Battle of the Blues. It's the annual cricket match between Royal College Colombo and St. Thomas College, Mount Lavinia. This is the 144th staging of the match. Actually, it's no longer a match. It is a part of Sri Lanka's social fabric.
We are at the Battle of the Blues, popularly known as the Royal Colombian Cricket Encounter, which is happening for its 144th uninterrupted cricketing year.
The Sinhalese Sports Club in Colombo has been hosting the Battle of the Blues since 1994. Played over 3 days, the 144th edition of this match was a celebration in more ways than one. The COVID-19 pandemic had forced this game to be played behind closed doors for the last 2 years. The restrictions were lifted this year, and alumni, casual fans and even prominent cricketers turned up to savour this unique festival of cricket.
The Royal Open is something very special to me. I've been watching the game since the 1980s and I've enjoyed every single match so far for several decades.
The Royal Open is not only an event between two schools, it's part and parcel of the culture of this country. The first match which was played in 1880 and now we are playing the 144th game. This is, until the COVID came, it was the longest cricket match which was played without a disruption.
To understand this match's unique place in Sri Lankan society, one must go back to 1880. The Royal College was set up in 1835 and is known as the Eton of Sri Lanka. Following the model of the British public schools, the school has produced distinguished alumni who have played this match, including Junius Jayawardene, Ranjan Madugale and current international Kusal Pereira. St. Thomas was set up by an Eton old boy, and that has sparked off a rivalry that draws instant comparisons with Eton and Harrow, the iconic English public schools. Prominent alumni include Sri Lanka's first Prime Minister D.S. Senanaike, after whom the trophy for this match has been named, former captain Duleep Mendes and Shivan Mendes. It's not just the cricket and the rivalry that's iconic. The tents that spring up around the stadium during the annual match draw their names from the sport of equestrian. It's a place to catch up, reminisce about old times and also cheer the boys in the middle. The Royals earned the bragging rights with a 180-run win, giving them a 36th accolade, one more than their bitter rivals.
While the world's second oldest cricketing encounter ends in favour of Royal College, Colombo, the tradition and the continuedness, along with the uninterrupted nature of this cricket match, is sure to continue for generations to come.
A rivalry with no hate, just pure competition. That's a battle worth watching in a stadium, isn't it? That's all from Inside South Asia this week. But before we go, we leave you with some glimpses of Asia's largest tulip garden in Srinagar. The garden attracted over 100,000 visitors in just a week, and with good reason. These visuals can send anyone swooning. Take a look, and I'll see you again next week on Inside South Asia. I'm Shivan Chanana.
Gravitas tells you stories which others won't. And tonight we will tell you about this new strategic map that is being drawn.
They say your enemy's enemy is your friend. Is that the foundation of the new defense bridge between India and America?
This is what separates us from others who claim to be telling you global stories that matter. In the last 3 days, WION has been traveling across Syria. You are in Latakia city right now. Tell us, what is the situation on ground? At Gravitas, we don't just tell you stories from selected countries from around the world.
2 years since the Myanmar military coup, the people of Myanmar continue to live in a nightmare. Because it does not suit their propaganda, or because they are too scared to speak truth to power.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
Stay connected with the world through WION. Like the page on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter for new alerts. Instagram for videos and images. And the website for the latest news, views, and analysis. WIONews.com. World is one.
Gravitas tells you stories which others won't. And tonight we will tell you about this new strategic map that is being drawn.
They say your enemy's enemy is your friend. Is that the foundation of the new defense bridge between India and America?
This is what separates us from others who claim to be telling you global stories that matter. In the last 3 days, WION has been traveling across Syria. You are in Latakia city right now. Tell us, what is the situation on ground? At Gravitas, we don't just tell you stories from selected countries from around the world.
2 years since the Myanmar military coup, the people of Myanmar continue to live in a nightmare.
Because it does not suit their propaganda, or because they are too scared to speak truth to power.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that